Okay everyone, thank you for returning to my channel for another video. And if you haven't visited my channel before, called Eccentric Raven, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my channel because I'm planning on doing a lot more videos in the future. I'm going to do some reviews on music. I'm going to actually perform some of my own songs that I've written, as well as maybe do some covers. I'm also going to put on some interesting topics or stories about history or things that are out of the ordinary, as well as maybe do some book reviews. So anyway, hopefully I can keep it interesting and entertain you guys. For today, this is a video that I've been wanting to do for a long time now, and I just hadn't had the time this summer since this album came out, this new Bruce Springsteen album. And I'll get into later on in the video why I think this is going to be a Grammy win for him. But right now I'm just going to set a little background about the artist Bruce Springsteen. Well, he grew up in New Jersey, and when he was 14 he saw Elvis Presley play and perform on TV. I think it was on one of the entertainment shows of the day. But he got really excited and he thought, hey, that's something that I could maybe do. That might be something there. So he talked his mom into renting a guitar for him because he didn't have a lot of money. You see, his dad had some mental issues and was unemployed more than he worked, and his mother was the breadwinner of the family. She was a hard-working Italian woman, and I believe most of her working life she was a legal secretary. So she's the one that brought the bacon home for the family. And Bruce Springsteen grew up in this home where he watched his parents struggle to survive. A typical working class family that struggled to make ends meet and afford the day-to-day expenses of living. So while he started to play this guitar, his desire for it started to wane because, you know, just like anything for teenagers, things become a little more complicated than they thought at first, and you know, maybe it wasn't providing him the pleasure that he wanted at that time. And so it was a couple of years later when he was in high school that he saw the Beatles perform on TV, and that's when it came back to him. He said, "This is it. I really want to do this. This is what I'm going to pursue in my life." And so he saved up some money and got himself a lot better guitar and took it a lot more seriously, and that's when he really started building his talent. And this is in the mid to late 1960s. And later on, you know, he was with a couple bands, but then he got involved with the E Street Band. And he got that nickname that he doesn't really like. He's been uncomfortable with it. Now after all these years, he's kind of just accepted it. But the Boss is kind of against everything that he writes about in his music, because he's always represented the hardworking American blue-collar worker who, you know, they want to be treated fairly by the people who employ them, the corporations. And so a lot of them are unionized in those labors, and the Democratic Party is the one that you know, supports the unions. So he became that type of figure in his music. However, it was rooted in his Catholic upbringing, and though back then he even admits, you know, he was quite rebellious for the standards of those days, and but still inside him was instilled a deep belief in Jesus Christ, and that Jesus Christ is the Savior of all mankind. So this deep-rooted faith comes out in his music as well, and also his political perspective. Maybe not as much in some songs, but in some songs definitely. And he became a real success early on with types of sounds that he was trying to perfect, like that big wall of sound late in the 1970s that he perfected so well. And not only was he involved in the rock genre, he also crossed over. He did some folk, like The Road to Old Man Joad's, and then he did some other work that sounded a little bit more country. And he's also delved in a little bit of pop, not a whole lot. But anyway, so this video is about his song Western Stars, which is the name of the self-entitled album Western Stars. It's track number 4 on the album. This song really moved me, and I was really blown away by it the first time I heard it. It really brought vivid detail to my mind about the subject matter that he was describing, the feelings that his music invokes in it, with the string section and the very, very tasteful string selection where it's placed. He doesn't overdo it. He brings it to climax builds it to a climax in the most important parts of the song. Also, there's a little bit of steel guitar, which is very tastefully done. This is a song that could be played on rock stations, on easy listening, and even crossover to country western music stations. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to review the lyrics, because when I first listened to the song a few times, because I liked it so much, I tend to do that with the song. I replay it over and over again and get the feel for it and stuff. The lyrics started to sink into me, and I discovered that there may be more meaning than the literary meaning of the lyrics. So, and I can't help this, because this is the political scientist in me, or the political theologian. Anyway, so I'm going to go through these lyrics and describe a deeper meaning rather than the literal meaning, and just to let you see what I see in this song. So it starts off by saying that he woke up in the morning just glad his boots are on. So he's enjoyed this certain lifestyle of living in the West, this character has, and he's glad to see another day of it. And he woke up with his boots on, he's glad for that, and even though he's hinting at or foreshadowing that the days of the West aren't like they used to be, he can still enjoy some semblance of a Western lifestyle. So, the alternative is his boots lying, sitting in the grass, empty, and in the empty, whispering grasses. So, anyway, the next part of the music, or the lyrics, is very interesting at first, because at first I really thought it said, on the set, the naked girl, forgive me for this, brings me 2 raw eggs and a shot of gin. And I was like, did that say what I thought it said? And I'm like, it can't be. So I went back and I rewound it. Listen, it's the makeup girl. Okay. So here I am envisioning he's on the set. He's about ready to shoot a video. And so, in order to give him a little more stamina, he asked for 2 raw eggs and a shot of gin, just to kind of pep him up. And that's to also coat his stomach, because he's going to take the little blue pill in the next part of the lyric. The little blue pill promise that to bring it all back to you again. That's to bring it back all to you again. So that little blue pill, is probably Viagra, but and then I thought, well, maybe it did say naked girl, but no, forget about that. So it's makeup girl. But then I got to thinking, okay, this makeup girl could actually be an anchor woman on the news in the morning, who is going to present the protein of the agenda for the day. So here she is dishing out a breakfast meal of fake news, because she's the makeup lady, right? So she's got this agenda that she has to go by, that she's trying to sell to the people, and it's disguised as, okay, well, this is your meat and potatoes for the day on your political news, and you're going to wash it down with a little sugar chaser, which, you're going to wash it down with some gin, sweet coat it, and then the little blue pill all of a sudden had a different meaning for me, and that was, he's not taking the red pill. He's not taking the red pill, which stands for a conservative viewpoint or perspective on things. He's taking the blue pill, and the promise for the blue pill is, hey, we'll bring all these things back to you again, and these things are like big government, these big government programs that will take care of you, like universal health care coverage and policing of regulating the pollution output on factories and industry, and trying to establish a one world government through these types of legislative processes, where everybody has to, like the Paris Accord, that Donald Trump got out of. That those laws are the very beginning of universal laws and a one world type of organization. So we all know that Bruce Springsteen, he's been the voice of the blue collar worker in America for a long time. So that's kind of what struck me after a while, listening to this a few times. And then he keeps going back to the chorus, tonight the western stars are shining bright again. So after each of these stanzas takes place in the song, he comes back and repeats that this is a great thing. The western stars are still burning bright, and then here in the canyons above sunset. I really like this. I really like this prose. Bruce Springsteen, he's been celebrated as a rock poet in this genre. He's very descriptive, very verbose, very prosaic in his writing, in his lyrics, and so he's also able to present a scope so broad in one song, such that people also call him, cinematic in nature. So the scope of one song that he writes with all the different lyrics, he's so good they don't even have to rhyme, that he can describe a whole movie in one song, which is fantastic. I mean, a fantastic talent, which a lot of people who write lyrics, they focus on one specific thing in the song, and it's very highly repetitive, and it doesn't really tell much of a story, maybe just a little bit of story, or just kind of a feeling that happens to you after you experience something. So he's a brilliant artist, brilliant writer, but these canyons up above the sunset, they're kind of like this last stronghold of the cowboy in the American West. So these are remote, foreboding places that society will probably not be able to have much of an impact on for a long time because of the harshness of the climate in the high desert, the brutal landscape, and just the isolation of the place, the remoteness. And so that created a brilliant imagery in my mind. Then we have the second part of that stanza, or that line, is the desert don't give up a fight. And I kind of described what I thought about the desert there. Then we go on to a coyote. So a coyote with someone's chihuahua in its teeth skittered across my veranda in the night. So this is an interesting image too. So this happens all the time out west. If probably even in the east, coyotes are everywhere, and they're one of the most adaptable creatures that we have, and so they even live in cities. So one of their most easy meals is to grab your pet and take off with it and eat it. So that's one thing that I thought about at first, but then I was thinking, okay, Chihuahuas, they originate out of the state of Chihuahua in Mexico, supposedly. We don't know exactly if that's where they originated from, but anyway, so the other definition for a coyote or coyote is someone who smuggles illegal immigrants across the border of the United States, and they know all the routes that traverse the extreme desert, and they know how to get around the border patrol, and they get paid by these illegal immigrants to guide them through there. And so then I thought, okay, well, his veranda must be somewhere on the southern border, whether it be like Arizona, New Mexico, or Texas. He's probably used to, this character in this song is probably used to seeing illegals pass through his property all the time, or through that area, coming into the United States. And then it goes on to describe Some Lost Sheep from Oklahoma, which is a woman sitting at the whiskey bar sipping on a mojito. So anyway, this lost sheep refers to, I think it refers to displaced the displaced younger generation off of farms and ranches throughout the heart of America to the west, where these properties have been whittled down so long. When each family member retires, they sell a piece off, that they become so small that they've kind of put an end to their own lifestyle by trying to retire and put their kids through college and stuff. And so their kids are not going to live this type of lifestyle where they're working on the farm, where they're herding cattle or working with cattle. So they move to the city to find a new life, a new place to work, a new lifestyle, something to support them through their lives. So this lost sheep, she says, "Hey, I think I recognize you in an old commercial in that old commercial with the credit card." So, before the launch of the internet and all this stuff, social entertainment or media, on TV there was a lot of commercials, and so a lot of these guys, they got a lot of notoriety on TV for being commercials endorsing things like credit cards. So this kind of refers to how old he is. I think he's getting a little bit older in his life, and so he's progressing onward in his career. When I first heard this song, I thought, well, maybe this is his last song that he's going. Maybe this could be his last major album, and it kind of is a parallel to his life. That, okay, so I was once in the public eye, and everyone knew who I was. And then as I got older, these younger generations, like the X generation and the I generation coming up after us, they've kind of lost touch of who I am. So they have a vague idea of who I am, that he did. They probably were introduced to them by their parents, but they vaguely know who he is anymore. And so he's kind of referring this line to himself. And so then she smiles at him and says, I saw you in a commercial once, I think, when I was a kid. And then he goes on to say, hell, these days ain't no more. Now there's just again. So I really think that he's at the end of his career, and he kind of knows it. It's kind of the same way as American West. The American West, under Horace, in Horace Greeley's take of how romantic the West was, it used to be a wild and romantic place, and everyone dreamed about going west and carving out a piece of their own, a slice of America, where they could live and prosper and pursue the American dream and be independent financially. And a lot of people who came out on the western frontier, they lost their lives because of how rugged and remote and harsh it was to come out here. Not to mention farming and ranching on new lands, trying to scratch out a living, in a land where the indigenous people were still not under the rule of law of the new government of the land. And so I really believe that this might be one of his last major attempts at a Grammy. The Grammy, I believe, is valid because of all of the virtue signaling that's found in his lyrics within this song, and also scattered throughout his album. These tragic characters that he has created in the music, they all have a dire tone to them that, we almost made it. We almost had it all. We almost were successful in the things that we were undertaking. And I think that this reflects his disappointment that Donald Trump became president, because it changed so many things. And I think one of the biggest things that it changed for him was because he was an Obama supporter for both terms of Obama's office. He also performed, for both of those campaigns. He was awarded the Medal of Freedom by Obama in 2016 before he got out. He felt alienated by his fan base because he believed they were Democrats inherently, and that he represented the Labor Party. But during the administration of Clinton, even Bush, and Obama, a lot of these industrial jobs went overseas. And overseas, it helped these other countries prosper and have jobs. And then these people who were these American workers were left with nothing because they knew how to work on the factory lines. They knew how to work in their steel industry, and they were employed by car manufacturing, auto manufacturing plants and facilities, and all that stuff went overseas. And all of a sudden, like, hey, wait a minute, where did we go? Where did our jobs go? And then they really couldn't get out of that very easily unless they went back to school, which costs lots of money. Taking out loans to go to school anymore is like such a financial commitment that you're making that you can pay on those things forever. And so when Donald Trump came along, he said, hey, we're going to make America great again. And people were like, make America great? We're already great. Well, the only people that were saying that we're already great are people who were already independently wealthy, people that were already had good jobs and they didn't have their lifestyle threatened by any changes in the political environment. And so, but these workers who were all alienated and isolated by the political agenda, they believed that they were hoping that Trump could come in and bring industry back to them so they can enjoy the jobs that they had once before and live the lifestyle that they so dearly loved. And so they voted for a conservative. This was a major change in the political winds. In fact, even Pennsylvania voted conservative for the first time in decades. It's been decades that they've been liberal Democrats, Labor Party Democrats, and now all of a sudden Donald Trump wins their vote. And Bruce Springsteen, even up to a couple of weeks before the election, in an interview was saying there is no way that Donald Trump is going to be president. So, and I don't fault him for his political views. Everyone has the right to their political views, and I'm not saying one view is right and one view is wrong. I just want to present the political perspective that I have on this work. And so I believe that this song was very close to his heart, and so a lot of his political beliefs came shining through in the imagery, although at a very discreet level that one might not really catch the symbology of. So anyway, I thought I'd bring it upon myself to try to interpret this song for people, and this is just my opinion. I've got to say, this is an opinion. I can't say this is a fact. I'm not Bruce Springsteen. I don't know exactly if that's what he had intended in his lyrics, but this is from my perspective and for the educational background that I come from. These are the signals that I picked up in the writing. So let's move on to the rest of the song. And so the rest of the song, so now he says, now there's just again. So, hell, these days there ain't no more, now there's just again. So the West has pretty much been conquered, so there's nothing new going to happen in society anymore. In fact, the West has been conquered. It's now going to become more civilized, and we're all going to just experience the same things over and over again. Our days are going to be similar because now we're kind of in this more civilized functioning lifestyle, and this also might refer to the twilight years of his career where hey, I'm not going to be writing music much longer. I'm going to be actually reminiscing about the albums that I've already written, and performing the music that I've already written. And there's going to be a point in time where I'm not being a creative artist anymore. I'm just going to be playing the songs that I've already written. Sundays, I take my El Camino, throw my saddle in and go. So that just describes today. You used to just walk out your back door, grab your saddle out of the tack shed, go over and throw it on your horse, and ride off to wherever you needed to go. But, of course, those days are long gone. You got to throw your saddle in the back of your truck or your El Camino, like he likes, and drive down to the pasture where your horse is being pastured so you can go for a ride. This is just another symbol of how the West has been conquered. And excuse me. East of the desert, where the Charros, they still ride in rope. Okay, so in this description, he's saying, okay, well, the days of the traditional American cowboy are gone. So for us to see that lifestyle anymore, it's going to come from Mexico. It's going to come from just across the border, the southern border, over in Mexico, where they still have large ranches. I mean, there's still large ranches here today, but the ones that are still here and are large are ranches that have been deeded and handed down one generation to the next, and a lot of those ranches are contiguous acres, and so they're a self-contained cattle operation. But a lot of the cowboys that wanted to be cowboys here in the West and were eking out a living on public and federal lands, they're also being displaced off the range by another factor that's highly political, and that is trying to protect the environment and certain species like the wild Mustang, which I'll go to in a little bit. But anyway, so the Charros, they're the only ones that really rope and ride anymore. They ride around, they herd their cattle to market. Probably they probably don't have to put it on trucks or a train. I know some outfits do, but maybe they can actually still drive their cattle to market. But they're the ones that live the true cowboy lifestyle still. We don't hear in the United States. The traditional cowboy is in the throes of extinction. It's at the very end. And the cowboy, which is interesting, used to be the symbol. 50 years ago, the cowboy was still the symbol of the American West. But I would argue no longer. Within the last 50 years, it's become the wild Mustang. The wild Mustang is now the symbol of the West because it's been protected, and it's actually won over the cowboys' rights to grazing in a lot of areas. Because, for one, we used to be able to take those horses to market for meat in countries that actually ate horse meat, like France and Mexico and some of these other countries that actually eat horse meat. And we used to be able to render them, take them down to a rendering facility for glue, if you want to call it that. But the environmentalists and the conservationists have put an end to that and made it illegal. So now we have a surplus of wild Mustangs on the range lands that once were able to support a lot more cattle. And so the cutting back of the animal unit permits that the Forest Service and the BLM issue to ranchers has decreased in most places, to the point where they're not really making a living. They're eking out a living, and it's not really a good perspective for their children to carry out the same lifestyle into the future. So a lot of these types of ranchers have been displaced off of out of that industry, the cattle industry, by default, because of the more strict regulations of BLM and the federal government. So then we go to our American brothers cross the wire and bring the old ways with them. So yeah, we're all humanity. We all are related to each other, and yeah, we can call them brothers. However, they do belong. They're members of another country, and arguably a lot of them are from Central America, not Mexico, and but they come over, and the reason why he is celebrating these characters so much in the old ways refers to they know how to work and they know how to labor, and that's something that our younger generations have lost sight of. Like what's the biggest thing that somebody has to do, a teenager has to do at home right anymore, is mow the lawn, right? So they know how to mow the lawn, but do they know how to work from sunup to sundown just to survive, to feed themselves, to have a place to sleep? No, they don't. They don't know that. And then even the younger generation, the I generation, who is carrying a screen with them everywhere, and they're always looking at their screens, they're even more oblivious to the hard work ethic. So Bruce Springsteen, he really celebrates these people as, hey, these people are going to come over and show us the ethic of hard work and this younger generation, because they have totally lost sight and touch with what that means. And of course, then he goes back to, tonight the Western stars are shining bright again, because, you know, every time something good happens that he thinks is a good thing, he goes back in a song, he goes back and repeats that glorious chorus, which is so wonderful to hear. Then that takes us clear down to, once I was shot by John Wayne, it was towards the end. So, you know, this seems innocent enough, and, you know, I'm probably reading way too much into this, you know, but my political mind can't help to think that there's something going on here. But so John Wayne, I think everyone knows that he was like the most conservative Hollywood figure in Hollywood, that legendary figure, this cowboy that, you know, believed it, that represented family tradition, the cowboy, the Western lifestyle. So anyway, in a movie, he was shot by John Wayne towards the end. So this guy put up a good fight against a conservative legendary figure, but he lost in the end. And it made him famous, obviously, because, you know, if you're going to get shot by somebody that's as famous as John Wayne, you know, you've been fighting against him, then you're going to have some kind of notoriety. What I see in this message may be a stretch, but I think that what it's referring to is the fact that after Obama was done being president and he started to support Hillary Clinton, he was a huge backer of Hillary Clinton, and he said, there's no way that Trump's going to win. Trump was this staunch conservative who said that he valued the working class people and that he was going to help them get their lives back. But Bruce Springsteen, because he's always been a Democrat, a Labor Party Democrat, he refused to believe that there was any chance that Trump would get any of the votes from these people. So he went up against this huge legendary figure like Trump. I mean, Trump was also a celebrity. Trump was a celebrity, probably not as, I don't know, as famous as John Wayne or legendary as John Wayne, but everybody knows who Trump is, and he was a celebrity. He had his own show, The Apprentice, and people knew who he was. And so he went up against this guy, and he lost. And so he feels like he failed everyone in a way. But then when he sings about "Ride Me Down Easy," easy friend, ride me down easy friend, that line I really believe is saying, hey, I'm sorry that I didn't see the political winds changing, and that you guys were going to go ahead and cross over the party line and vote for a conservative for once, to bring back industry into our country and to bring back those really good jobs. And I feel like you guys abandoned me, and I kind of let you guys down because I didn't show you the way to. I didn't show you the way where you should go to maintain your lifestyle as a working class person and those really good jobs that you once had. I didn't see the change coming, and so I got shot down by this larger than life conservative. And I'm sorry that I didn't see that coming. And please, don't abandon me for my mistake of misjudging the situation. And please still support me, even though, I didn't see that change coming. So yeah, I think that was written out of a sense of his fan base abandoning him and voting for conservative. And then one of the greatest imageries, there's two of them here that I really like. Here's to the cowboy riders in the whirlwind. Here's to the cowboy riders in the whirlwind. So I've already kind of touched on this. The cattle industry has become a highly political, controversial industry. Pitted against. It's very polarized between conservatives and liberals. The liberals want people to live in the city. They don't want people ruining national treasures. They want to set all this land off, set it aside for posterity's use, like in national parks, and which we already have so many of. But they want to keep people out of the lands, to like preserve it and to keep it unspoiled, and so they really don't like these types of industries, like the cattle industry, coming in and grazing, and maybe making it more difficult for threatened species to survive, like the desert tortoise or some of these others, which actually it's kind of controversial whether or not they are threatened species. There's a lot of those tortoises out there anymore, but so this really shows here that it kind of tells you what they go up against. Like most recently, the Bundys, a few years ago, they were forced off of their BLM lands that they argued should have been grandfathered to them because they had used them for so long, and they shouldn't have to pay grazing rights for their cattle because they were there before the BLM actually owned the land. And then they had that sit-in on that wildlife refuge because they believed that a lot of farmers and ranchers were put out of business there due to environmental issues that didn't necessarily have to be. So anyway, there was a huge controversy in this, and the cowboy has lost in a lot of regards. The type of cowboy that I'm describing that utilizes BLM and federal lands to graze their cattle on, and what has emerged the winner is the wild Mustang. So the wild Mustang, it's outlasted the cowboy on these lands. It's federally protected, and it has become a new icon of the West. It's the new symbol of the West, replacing the once was cowboy. And then tonight, the riders on Sunset are smothered in the Santa Ana winds. So the Santa Ana winds, this is kind of interesting because now all of a sudden we're going to be talking about California in the song. And Bruce Springsteen lived in California for 4 years in Los Angeles. And so that's where these winds blow down through Southern California. They originate in the Great Basin, on the Great Basin. And the Great Basin isn't just one big Great Basin. There's several smaller basins. These are high desert plateau basins that they build up a lot of heat, and so these temperatures they increase a huge volume of hot air, and as the coast is cooler on the Southern California coast, as that starts that cools off, it's naturally cooler. So in the evening, these winds blow down through, they come down through the passes of those mountains and into California onto the coast. And so when I first heard this, I thought, oh, cool. I envisioned these cowboys with their hats flung off because they're riding into the wind, into the sunset. And the only thing that's keeping their hats on is a strap around their neck. And you see their silhouettes just making a hell-bent for leather ride to the sunset. And I thought, this is cool. And then I thought about it some more, and I thought, well, the Santa Ana winds are down on the Southern California coast. So is he talking about Harley riders, bikers, actually riding their motorbikes on Sunset Boulevard, being smothered in the Santa Ana winds down on Sunset Boulevard? And then I thought, this is a possibility because Bruce Springsteen likes the road. He likes the highway. He likes to ride on the highway. A lot of his songs are about that. And then, so this modern cowboy, riding Harleys, in the city, they're the ones being smothered in this wind. So I think you could take it both ways. And I think that's what's really interesting about this song, is that not only is there brilliant imagery written into it in these lyrics, which are are very beautiful. I'm really moved by the song. I've listened to it lots of times. If you haven't heard it, you gotta go and listen to it, see what you think. But these are the reasons why I think that he's due for a Grammy Award, and especially in this song, Western Stars, he has provided all the necessary virtue signaling to the collective Grammy panel, who are traditionally Democrats, liberals. And I don't really care about that, because I like the song and I'm still going to listen to it. And even if he didn't mean that, then I'm sorry. It's just an opinion that I got from kind of reading into the lyrics more, but because of my political mind. But the song is amazing. Did a really good job. The album's great. I believe they're worthy of Grammy nominations just on the craft that he put into the project of this album and the work. But also the virtue signaling's there for the panel, just like last year, the Childish Gambino one, with his anthem, kind of saying that, so this is America, this is America, and it's not a very good place because we kill each other with weapons and we have all this violence. And he's referring to the Jim Crow laws, which aren't even around anymore, and he's not even giving any credit for how far we've come with civil rights in this country and how much we've overcome racism. And we have come a long way, but it's a platform that liberals have to hold on to and to keep going back to in order to gain support. And in fact, I think the video, Childish Gambino's video, was actually it actually violated the terms and agreements of YouTube. So I actually informed them. I said, do you realize the implications of this video that shows mass murder and assassination murder in it? And this is being played to our children and shown to our children that this is what America is all about. And I think it was grotesque as far as the message in the video, even though it was trying to speak out against the Jim Crow laws. We don't have those laws anymore, and we don't really need to hold on to those types of laws. We need to move forward and embrace each other and not have such a racial polarization in this country. And I think grabbing onto those things and holding on to them and cherishing them in our history is something that will always kind of remind people that, hey, I'm being treated unfairly, and but one of these days, hopefully, we'll overcome that divide and we'll get back together as a country. Thank you for listening, hearing me out on this. I know it's a long-winded video. I think I'll probably have to post it in a couple different segments and or episodes. So thanks for listening to me, and for those of you who have subscribed, I really appreciate it. It helps me out. And those who haven't subscribed, I hope that you like my material, and I'll have more videos coming in the future. So if you please hit that subscribe button and click on the notification so you'll know when I have a new video available. Thanks. I hope you guys have a great day. Take care.